Oh, everybody, it's a great day. It's day 70. It's our 7th update since we planted seeds and starts. I want you to see sunflowers that are 3 meters tall, covered in bees and getting ready to be covered in birds. And Soda and I are celebrating the harvest. These are the things I've just picked today to show you where you're at if you've planted 70 days ago like I did, and we'll just take a look at it, talk about it a bit, take a few little pokes through the garden and celebrate the abundance. It's amazing. Let's get in close on this and take a better look. Okay, so where do we start? This is exciting. So I just want to remind you, this is day 70, and this is all picked just this morning, just to give you a sense of where things are at. So let's start with the potatoes. I popped them on a scale. You can see with the bowl included, it's over 7 pounds. Take a look at the size of that potato. Is that not incredible? This is 2 plants. So this is 2 plants yielding 7 pounds, so a bit over 3 pounds per plant. And remember, we started with each plant just being 1 small potato, maybe golf ball to hardball size. So 2 potatoes as seed gave us that. The carrots at 70 days are looking like this. This one's pretty gnarly. It'll taste just as good as all the others. There's probably the biggest ones in there. They're coming out at 15, 18 centimeters long. Lots of greens as well. The beets have now sized up beautifully, looking amazing. And the pole beans at day 70, look at the pole beans. As long as you keep picking pole beans, they'll keep on flowering for you and keep producing. So there's going to be probably weeks of pole beans like that. And remember, we planted only 1 cucumber plant, and I picked all these just today because I was letting them grow for a little while so I could take this video today. These are the straightest ones on the top. I think there's what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cucumbers today, and I've been picking on a regular basis. And then finally the cantaloupes are sizing up to look like that. I don't think they're ripe yet, but we're going to take a peek because there's something I want to show you on the cantaloupe plant that is a little bit of a concern, and so we might need to harvest sooner than planned. We're looking for white seeds inside. They are white. Now, it's not going to look like a store-bought. Doesn't smell sweet yet, so I don't think it's quite ripe, but there's mushiness and there's seeds that are getting ready, so it's very close to being ripe. So 70 days in, that's what produce is looking like, and every day I've been giving away and harvesting from this garden. It just keeps getting better. So just checking in on this first bed now as we cruise around the garden. This is the cucumber plant that we built the little wooden trellis for. There's some cucumbers that are kind of gnarling up. They're getting kind of small and tiny like that, so they're not going to grow very straight. So I picked them off right away. And on the plant now, there's probably about 20 or 30 smallish cukes that are about this long. And I've just showed you of the 13 cukes we picked today, how big they do get because they're long English, right? So this plant's got promise to grow a lot more, but there's a little problem, as I alluded to earlier, on the cantaloupe. Cantaloupe being very related to cucumber in terms of disease and susceptibility, there is a little problem, and I'm going to show you that. So we'll see how much longer the lifespan is for this cucumber. The largest sunflower is in the foreground, so I'm just going to pull it back a bit so you can see the extent of the sunflowers in the rear. Do you see the size of these sunflowers and how many there are behind me? There's honeybees on every single one of them. And now the pole beans are not just growing on the poles, they're also growing onto all the sunflowers. So off of every sunflower plant, it's acting like a bean pole, and I'm picking beans off the sunflowers. So this is epically crazy. And remember, this is the sun, the tallest plants, so they're at the north end of the garden, so that the sun is on the other side of this. So the shorter plants like the beets and the tomatoes are on the other side. Let's take a look at the other side of the bed. Okay, so now we're on the other side of the same bed. The sunflowers and beans are just behind me. I could actually reach through and pick beans from here. As promised on the day 60 update, the previous one, I was going to tie back the tomatoes, which was a bit of a chore. Some of the leaves are not doing great because they got broken off, so you can see there's the odd dead leaf on the tomatoes, but for the most part, wow. The plants are getting air through them now, they're stretched up and staked, and that's providing more light to the beets down below, so the beets continue to size up, and I've already shown you how big some of the beets are that are growing right here. There is, I'm not going to exaggerate, at least 100 tomatoes on the 4 plants we put in here. Some of them are very sizable, some of them are more cherry tomato variety. We haven't picked any ripe tomatoes yet. I'm hoping by day 80, our next update, that we're going to see some tomatoes coming in as well. So that is pretty amazing. And just further down, I'm going to take a look at the peppers as well, and then we'll move on to the next bed. So still in the same bed, one of the things I'd forgotten to pick for the intro of the video was a ripe pepper. So look how beautiful that pepper is. There's 2 more peppers that are nicely coming along on this plant, and I've got at least 3 nice flowers that could still set fruit. So lots of good things going on. And then all through this bed still cucumbers and beans growing. We're going to cruise on to some more beds and take a look at the abundance. This is the spot right here where I uprooted 2 potato plants to pick these 7 or so pounds of potatoes. What I want to show you is that as soon as I harvested the potatoes out of the soil, I covered it. Remember, soil is sacred, and the more protected the soil is, the happier it'll be, the more abundant, vigorous, and healthy it'll be. So as a result, there's going to be no weeds, and it's going to keep in the moisture at the same time. So there's many more potato plants cruising down here, and we'll just cover up as we harvest. So I'm on the other side of the bed that has the potatoes in it. The potatoes are just over here out of reach. And remember, there's carrots and onions in the center, and I showed you the carrots that we picked out of here. And then this row that's closest to me is what we tried to grow greens in, and the wireworm obliterated everything. So we've planted some bush beans, which are taking off great, and they're probably going to flower in the next day or 2. And we planted some other seeds that we weren't sure if they were chard or beets. They look like they're beets, and they're beautiful. And crazily enough, some volunteer chard came up as well. I want you to take a look at the size of these chard leaves. They're amazing. But I just wanted you to see what I did with the beets that are growing here, is I went through and I thinned them. So these are tiny little beets that were taking off, but they were a little too tightly spaced, which is always great. Plant a little tight and then thin them out. These greens are good for salads, cooked or raw, and chickens love them if you have chickens as well. And now the beets are all thin, so everything's going to size up. And because this is day 70 and we're moving towards the close of the hot growing season where I live, and beets are great with cool weather, we've got about 30-40 more days of warmish, but it's cooling down at night weather. The beets will size up really well, and they can stay in the ground for most of the winter if I have straw or sawdust or coffee sacks around them, and I'll just pick beets as I need them, probably through to January or so, definitely up to Christmas. So that's what's going on in this bed. The marigolds look amazing in the foreground, and I should just show you the onions have been beautiful. Now this is a kind of a red shallot. It doesn't get very big, but you're able to use the green at the top and also the red at the bottom, so they're beautiful color, and they've kept the carrots completely disease-free because, again, planting carrots and onions together goes great. So that center row is also beautiful. And check this out, a volunteer tomato plant. Volunteer meaning I didn't plant it here, it just elected to grow itself. It's flowering and putting tomatoes out really soon, so it's just going to grow up in the middle of everything, and we'll get some tomatoes in with the carrots and onions as well. Now let's look at the final bed that's in the backyard abundance on day 70. Okay, so check out, this is the final of the 3 beds to look at. It was tatsoi and chard growing here, and then there's a lot of broccoli and cabbage growing, and then herbs on the far side, and at the end is the cantaloupe and the zucchini. Last time we checked in 10 days ago, oh, hello, honeybee. It's just visiting right here on the flowers. Last time we checked in, the tatsoi was just starting to flower and grow tiny seed pods, and now you can see on each of these fronds, well, on this one here alone, there's about 30 seed pods, so I just want to bring one in close to the camera. This is going to have about 10 seeds inside it, just that one little frond. So there'll be thousands and thousands of tatsoi seeds, and I've just been pulling up the tatsoi as it finishes being harvestable, and I've let 1-2 plants go to seed. So as a result, there's lots of forage for the honeybees to hit, and then the seeds off of just one healthy branch like this will be enough to grow, you know, a whole garden bed of tatsoi next season. So I'll have fresh seed to plant and to share for next season as well. At the back, we're going to now take a look at a few other things. Look at the size of the leaves here that are on the cabbage. This is a broccoli plant, a sprouting broccoli. Each one of them is, you know, more than 1 meter around, so the size is crazy. So what looked like a sparsely planted bed at day 10, 20, and 30 now looks overwhelmingly almost overplanted. It's so dense. It's crazy what's going on, and it's super healthy in here. The greens are going to be amazing into the winter in this bed. Let's just take the camera down, look at the zucchini, the cantaloupe, and the herbs. Now, this is inside the zucchini plant, and there's still some zucchini setting up. Mostly male flowers are coming on, but there are some female flowers producing down in the bottom left. But here's the concern that's visible now, and this leaf is the most obvious example of it. This is going to spread, and it's a disease called powdery mildew. I'm not going to spray a fungicide onto my plants, and it's going to try to spread, whether it's rainy or dry or whatever now. At this point, it's coming on quick. It's going to spread onto the cantaloupe and possibly onto the cucumber as well. The cantaloupe is an immediate neighbor, and some of the stalks are starting to go a little funky. I will give this plant just a few more days, and I'll decide then to uproot it or to harvest more zucchini, because there's probably 8 to 10 more zucchini that could be harvested, but because of powdery mildew, it might be time to just uproot the plant. We'll decide as things go along. Now let's take a look at the cantaloupe. So here we are at the cantaloupe plant, where a little earlier we picked up this one and cut it in half. Inside this cantaloupe plant, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a little guy that's baseball size, 10 cantaloupes growing in here. But as you can see, like on the zucchini, we've got a powdery mildew coming on, so the plant's going to go into decline, free fall really quickly. I'm hoping for 10 more days of life to come from the plant to ripen up the cantaloupe, at which point it'll be excellent timing to uproot both zucchini and cantaloupe, give more space to the herbs, the broccoli, and the cabbage that are coming on in here. I'm just hoping we get enough time. Now, to just note, when I realized that I had a good bunch of solid-sized cantaloupes here, what I did is I started going around on the plant, and any place where there was little flowers indicating a desire to grow more, I plucked them off. I probably pulled off 100 flowers like that, all off the stem ends of the most extreme outreaching tendrils of the plant. And in so doing, I gave the plant a message: you can't grow any more cantaloupes. Put all your love and your energy into these biggies, because in my mind, if I get 7 to 10 cantaloupes off one plant, that's more than abundant. Trying to grow 100 is not going to work. They'll all just underperform. So that's a great way to just push the energy into the good ones. You can do that with pumpkins or any type of melon. I've just turned the camera slightly over from the cantaloupe now, and we're into herbs and back looking at the other side of the cauliflower, the sprouting broccoli, the cabbage and everything. It's pretty incredible to see what the herbs have done. Remember these little guys? This is all oregano here. You could do Greek roasted potatoes until the cows come home and you'd be good. This tiny little thyme plant that came from a cutting that I had done off one of my other thyme bushes that I rescued from a dumpster at a grocery store is huge. I've got all these chive clusters. The parsley is massive. The rosemary plants that we put in together, now I can grab pieces like this, which is about how big the plant was when we started, and they're just growing in abundance. But what's crazy is how lush everything is here. Look at the size of the chard leaves in here. And when you pull a chard leaf like that, all it does is create more opportunity for photosynthesis for other plants in here. Digging around in here, there's heads sprouting on everything. I've got cauliflower coming up that's about as big as my hands around. I'm going to wait till it doubles in size before I harvest. Each time I get one of those plants and it's done, I'm going to cut the plant off at the soil. I'm not going to uproot it, but by cutting it off the soil, the roots will decompose and put more nutrition back into the soil where they came from, and it'll free up more space for neighboring plants adjacent to grow and spread out their solar panels. So the abundance now of herbs and of greens is just miraculous. You can see the sunflowers behind me. This is day 70. This is crazy backyard abundance. Thanks for being along for the ride. Day 80 might even be better.